delivery groups. And I think the third is that online poker world needs some oversight. There have been two huge scandals recently that have really underscored the fact that online poker isn't an industry that's going to regulate itself. There was one with Absolute Poker, where there was a guy who had a super account who was able to see the hole cards of all the other players, and so he could obviously play perfect poker and beat everybody every hand, and took other players millions before they detected this was happening.
Wow.
And they never actually came out and detected it themselves. Somebody exposed the scandal through some screen cam operation. And then there was a second similar example with Ultimate Bet, which was very similar as well, with collusion and illegal gambling going on within the site. So but there's really nothing that anybody can do. Even the what they do to remedy the situation is largely up to the online folks to do on their own, whether they're going to give the money back and all that kind of, So it's something I think having some kind of government oversight and control. And really what would happen is the legitimate casinos, the Foxwoods, the Harrah's, the Mirages, they would come out with online sites. Today it's illegal for them to do that. They all have to be offshore, as you mentioned before. Mm-hmm. We could have U.S.-based, land-based casinos have online presences. And of course, they're not going to do things that are going to destroy their land-based businesses, so they'd run things that are more fair, more equitable, more above board, and be able to share the revenues with the government. So there's a lot of attractiveness to going in that direction. There's a huge study that's going on right now to gauge the feasibility of that Congress has commissioned. So it'll be interesting to see how that results.
John, tell us more about yourself. How long have you been gambling? Is it safe to say that just come back from Vegas that you may gamble?
I do gamble a little bit. Yeah. No, I'm exclusively a poker player.
Is that what you do for? You told me you were on a school board. Is that what you do for a living? You're a professional gambler?
No, not at all. No,
okay.
When I say exclusively, that's the only type of gambling I take place in is poker. And there's a lot of debate in the poker world about whether poker is gambling or a game of skill. Certainly, there's some luck of the cards involved, but the same players tend to win a lot. It's certainly there's skill, there's strategy, there's people. But I started playing more seriously just about 5 years ago. I'm a product of the moneymaker effect. In 2003, I saw the World Championship of poker on TV on ESPN. I saw Chris Moneymaker go through this field. I found the game fascinating, and this is the first year ESPN really started to broadcast regularly through a lot of hours. They used to just show it late at night. I never saw it before, but then they started showing it at prime time. And so I started playing on a free poker site, and then that poker site gives you some free money to try at a pay money site. And the way that they draw a lot of people in is when you put your initial deposit down, they'll give you an equal amount in addition. So say you put $100 down, they'll give you an extra $100, so now you have $200 to play with.
Sure.
So they kind of they get you just I think like they give free samples and drugs. And,
yeah.
So it's that kind of approach.
Sucks you in.
It does suck you in. And so then, but the way you have to get that $100 is by playing a certain number of hands to qualify to get that extra $100. So it kind of encourages you to get the activity level going. And so then, I started to have success fairly early on. I've got some inclination in math and so on. So I went out to Lake Tahoe and played in my first live tournament. Made the final table and cashed. The next night I was in Las Vegas and played a tournament at the Mirage. Came in second place. I put $100 down, won $2,500. So I've got sort of an inclination for it, but I've been playing pretty seriously for about 5 years now. But it's a thing you can definitely, you see it on TV, you click a couple of buttons online, next thing you know you're in a pay money site. It's a very easy, natural progression.
It's easy access. You don't have to look far to find it.
You don't have to look far to find it, and you don't have to wait till the casino opens, and you don't have to, basically you put your information in, they verify your bank account, and you're on your way. So it's very easy to get up and operational. And the sites are proliferating. So there was a proliferation of sites 5 years ago. There's been a consolidation in the industry in the last couple of years.
What keeps John from becoming addicted to gambling? Have you ever considered has it ever crossed your mind? Has there ever been a time where you've been in a position where you said, whoa, I might have crossed that threshold?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the things, and I talk about this a little bit in the book too, is gambling, playing poker has a way of sort of increasing your risk profile. And then we talked earlier about how some of these can transfer into your real life. Mm-hmm. And so, some of the storylines that are in the book and some that I've experienced too is you get into a situation away from the table and maybe you are willing to take a little bit more of a risk. Maybe In poker, they have something called pot odds, where you may be a prohibitive underdog to win the hand, but the amount of chips that you have to put in the pot are so few relative to the pot size that it actually makes putting those chips in a smart idea. For example, let's say
Sure, you put in less, but you can get back more.
Yeah, like let's say I have pocket kings and you have pocket aces. Okay, your hand's a 4-to-1 favorite over my hand. And if it's $10,000 in the pot, and I only have to put in $2,000 to match that, I'm getting 5-to-1 odds, even though I'm a 4-to-1 underdog. So I'm going to play that hand because the math makes sense. And you start to make those kind of transitions into the real life, and you say, well, this is maybe a long shot, but what I have to put into it versus the reward I might get out of it makes it worth doing, so let's try it. So it may change or alter your thinking a little bit and away from the tables.
So it's almost like you may become addicted to gambling, then it just crosses over into your entire life, like you just develop addictive behavior. So at home, if you know you're a dad, you're a husband, your work, your employment, it's going to cross your entire life. You can't, if you become addicted to gambling, chances are your addiction is not going to stay at the card table, at the racino, at the track. You're going to start making more and more risky behaviors, and that's perhaps where it develops into a monster.
It is true. Another kind of related topic, I did some study on gambling patterns in other countries. And one, for example, is in Jamaica. I don't know if you know, 20% of children under the age of 18 are either problem or moderate problems, or on the risk of being problem gamblers. It's a huge problem in that country. And girls are twice as likely, if they gamble, are twice as likely to be sexually active and not use protection. So that
because of the risky behavior.
Exactly. So I think there can definitely be some parallels between what happens at the table or in the gambling environment and what might when you walk away from the tables and leave the casino, how you operate in regular life as well.
Other stories of highs and lows, of course, with any substance, with anything. I mean, of course, we're not saying everybody that gambles becomes an addict. Of course not. There's people that can drink alcohol and not become alcoholics.
Right.
Other stories of cases where, stuff that you've seen where people have just gone from one extreme to the other, whether in just how far low and how far high this will take people and how quick that changes from high to low and then from no more.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of a situation that happened a few years ago at the poker table. It was a home game, just a bunch of friends getting together and playing. And we had this one guy who played who just, A, he didn't play well, and B, he just had bad luck. So it's a bad combination, of course. I remember one night, he was partners in a landscaping business, and he lost his landscaping business during a hand of cards.
He bet his landscaping business.
He bet his land because he was so sure. And this is a guy who was pretty emotional when he played. I mean, he would cheer vehemently when he won. He suffered depression when he lost. I mean, he didn't have a poker face. I mean, you could tell what was going on all the time with him. So yeah, he felt sure he had it. And in poker, when you have the best hand, we call it the nuts. It's a colloquialism that comes from the Old West. When you thought you had the best hand, you'd literally go out and take the nuts off of your stagecoach and come in and put them on the table. And if you didn't win that hand, you were walking back.
You're walking home.
Yeah, exactly. And so he thought he had it, and he put his business on the line. He lost half his real estate business. I still have a $600. We were playing small stakes. I still have a $600 check that I've never been able to cash from this guy from his gambling losses from one night. There was no possible way somebody could. We wouldn't even think it was possible to lose that much money in that night. We even got to a point where we played this guy's first name was Randy. We even got to a point where we played a hand called Randy Wins. His lowest card was automatically wild, so he was at a distinct advantage to us, and he would still not win. So and to see, and this is a guy he's this guy who has a college degree. He was in a professional occupation, paid well, and he would just come in with the money and leave without the money, and you'd see him come in every week. He's like, this is going to be different.
I'm going to get my money back.
You guys, I'm cleaning you out this week, and then 6-8 hours later, it was depression. I'm never going to do this again.
Does he still play?
I haven't kept in touch with him, so my only memory of him now is his check.
Okay.
So.
To more serious note, that gambling has the highest suicide rate amongst all addictions.